Welcome to the Cookbook, where we invite guests on to share the ingredients of what has helped make them the successes that they are. All of it, the good, the not so good. You're not going to find anything half-baked here. And our kitchen gets messy sometimes. That's when the fun starts. So come on and join us. Hey everybody, and welcome to another episode of the Cookbook. I'm your host, Iris Goldfeder, and I am super excited about my guest today, Hannah Abbott. We met at the Dames, and we had our fun friends in October, and we've met a few times since then. And she's just awesome, and she's brilliant, and she's a lot of fun. So I'm going to. Without further ado, bring her on and she'll tell you all about herself and we'll go from there. So, hey, Hannah.
Hello. Thanks for having me.
Oh, no, this is great. And I'm so excited, especially after our conversation last week. I'm wondering how many people are going to piss off with this?
Maybe a few.
Maybe a few because, well, we'll get into it. But so tell everybody about you and how you got started and you.
Sure. Do you want just an intro or do you want story?
No, story. This is all story, right? So how you got started, your whole, I love your story. So just talk. I can hear you talk all day. Go ahead. I'm just going to sit here.
Well, hello, everybody. My name is Hannah Abbott, and I am a certified expert resilience coach for high-achieving business leaders who are struggling with internal just survival mode, being in long-term survival mode and burnout and just the depletion and dysfunction that comes with that, just mentally, emotionally, and in their nervous system. And I use a proven and proprietary method that I developed to help guide them out of that into just complete wholeness, resilience, strength, and joy, both as a human and as a leader. So I really love what I do and I'm pretty passionate about it. That's an understatement. And honestly, a lot of it came from, I think as so many of us in work where we feel a deep calling to it, where there's a strong why behind it, where there is that intense passion with it, it comes a lot from my own story. Both as a human and as a coach. It didn't all just come from my coaching story. Because if you had met me when I was young, I think some descriptors for me would have been like, I was shy, but pretty unstoppable, pretty fierce and pretty stubborn, but in a quiet kind of way. And part of what I was carrying was just different dynamics of trauma. And I use that word, even though like trauma-informed methods are really in part of my coaching approach, I use that word carefully because I think we can misuse and misidentify it. It's not at all to speak to victimhood at all. I just had very real parts of my story where there was legitimate big T and little t trauma. And it's wild looking back on that now because it started driving and shaping and informing who I was as a person. So there was like the real fiery, passionate Hannah. And then there was the trauma shaped Hannah. So I became a fierce high achiever because that's what I learned got me love and where I found worth and approval. It was like, how much could I serve? How much could I do? How much could I make people happy? And that developed over time. And it was really just a survival response to a lot of trauma where I was experiencing abuse in multiple ways. And it's how I learned to protect myself. It's how I learned how to keep myself safe. Oh, if I make myself valuable, if I'm worth something to somebody and how much I can do or people please, I became a really big people pleaser. I was very, how can I make people happy? I was constantly looking for how can I take care of other people? And that really began to shape who I was. But at a very high personal cost. I was really driven by fear, fear of, if I disappoint somebody, if I fail.
So many people are driven by fear, right? I mean, until we realize that we're being driven by fear. Wow.
Right. And I don't think we often call it that, because that feels really weak and vulnerable to say,
Yeah.
oh, I'm scared. I'm dealing with fear. So instead we slap labels on it like, oh, I'm stressed, because stress is socially acceptable, right? Like, oh, I'm stressed. Oh, I'm just pushing really hard right now. I'm like, yeah, what's pushing you? And it's something you're afraid of. Like, what drove me to be a very high achieving individual, to be very type A, to be very go, go, go. Like I was pedal to the metal all the time. I was the go-to person. Oh, Hannah will take care of that. Oh, Hannah can handle that.
Oh, girl.
Yeah.
I hear you.
You're not.
I hear you.
So all of that. And the thing is, there was a part of me, like that was very much me. There was a very real element of true Hannah in there. Like it was innate in me. It was hardwired into me. I am very visionary. I am very, I think we were made to work, in terms of like, we were made to contribute to the world. We're made to serve. We thrive in that. When we contribute, when we're in a state of growth, when we're in a state of contribution, we thrive in that. And that's when I can immediately get into the neuroscience of like, those are core spiritual needs that we need as humans to thrive, to be in a state of growth, to be in a state of service and contribution, to feel a sense of purpose, a sense of significance of, oh, I'm doing something meaningful in the world. It's not ego. It's like just, oh yeah, I'm here for a reason. We thrive on that. So there were very real healthy dynamics of that in me. And I am type A, and I have no problem with that. But there was a very unhealthy side of that, the survival of, oh, you take a natural high achiever and then you pack on loads of fear. You pack on the driving mechanisms of trauma and getting hurt and believing the lie that, oh, in order to be loved or to be safe or to be respected or to be taken care of, I have to perform. You take that healthy high achiever and you turn him into a monster. Like we just become. So I became a workaholic. I became a perfectionist. I became a people pleaser who did not know how to turn off, because when your safety and your survival brain is at risk, you can't stop to be like, oh, don't be such a workaholic, put boundaries on your schedule. Honestly, I'm not trying to be insulting. It's laughable. I can read all the books in the world about boundaries and creating margin and time blocking. It's not systems that I need. I needed an entire internal reworking of, hey, it's safe to slow down. Hey, it's safe to create boundaries. Because you can give me
people.
Yeah, you can give me all the tactical strategy in the world about how to, like, the Pomodoro technique and time blocking and this and that. Those are beautiful if you feel safe to implement them. But when they threaten your ability to be safe in the eyes of like keeping people happy and all of that, no, you can apply those things all day long and you will quickly abandon them because you're like, this isn't safe. So all that to say, I started falling apart. I started falling apart because I was pushing myself so hard, so constantly, while also carrying so much unprocessed pain and trauma, which is deeply depleting. Like it's just exhausting to carry that load. So I have the exhaustion of pushing myself constantly, paired with the exhaustion of just carrying the load all the time, pushing it down, suppressing it, holding it, carrying it. And I started to break down at a remarkably young age. And the first real tipping point in my life was actually coming to terms with, I have a lot of pain that I need to process instead of cope with. I have a lot of pain that I need to confront in order to conquer.
How old were you?
I was 19.
Holy
I was young.
shit. Okay.
I was young. So just to give you an idea of how I was pushing myself, I started working full-time at 17 while finishing high school. And I was traveling internationally and domestically 9 months out of the year for my work. Well, like I finished high school early, then I hit the road immediately. So when I say like I was in go mode, I'm not exaggerating. And I was doing work that was very meaningful, very missional for me. I started my career as an entrepreneur doing freelance photojournalism, and I was doing it for nonprofits who fight human and sex trafficking. So it was very meaningful work for me, very life-giving. And so good and healthy paired with it allowed me to continue to run from my pain until I couldn't outrun it anymore. So the collapse that I started to hit was I was starting to deal with mental health issues, just like I was really depressed, even though my work was very meaningful. My life, I was like dealing with just depression. I was dealing with complete physical exhaustion. Like it wasn't just from the go, go, go of travel. It was from everything I was carrying and ignoring while doing that. And then, it was something completely out of my control, thank God, because I never would have chosen this for myself. But while I was overseas on assignment on a photojournalism job, I got into a high-speed head-on collision with a drunk driver and my life changed.
Holy crap.
My physical push mechanism where I could override the mental and I could override the emotional because I would just physically just keep going. I lost it because I had severe spinal injuries. I had severe abdominal injuries. I had a concussion. And I woke up out of a comatose type state in a foreign country by myself, just waking up going, I don't know what's happened. I don't know where I am. And in that moment, my life was changed. And it was the first catalyst, the first tipping point where I literally couldn't run from it anymore. I couldn't outwork it. I couldn't run from it because now I'm in a hospital. I'm just laid out and all I'm left with is me. And you can see the correlation. I literally couldn't do anything. So all those safety mechanisms, all those survival mechanisms that help me feel safe of work really hard, push, produce, achieve, go, were literally no longer an option. So it was wild at 19. Wow. The way I say this, I went through my first identity crisis because all of a sudden, all the things that made up who I was gone, the goer, the doer, I literally couldn't anymore. So it was this very painful confrontation with all of a sudden, I can't find my worth, my identity, my safety, and how much I can do. I was in and out of hospitals for 2 years. I was on and off of bed rest, for 2 years. And it was that confrontation of, and that was this first mode of work that I now help support my clients in of, I was just stripped bare of all of that and had to find my identity, my worth, and my value in who I was, not in everything that I could do, in who I was as a human being, not in being a human doing, a robot, a machine. And that time also set forward the next catalyst.
I love human being, not human doing. I love.
Yes, you can have that one.
Yeah, I love that. And I can't believe we've spoken so many times and I didn't fucking know this. I'm sitting here
it's a long story.
Wow. I'm just sitting here holy. Okay, go ahead. Sorry. I'm just
yeah, no, you're good. You're good.
I saw my jaw dropping. So people who are listening, you can't see my jaw dropping. People who are watching, you just saw my jaw drop. Wow.
So yeah, it was the catalyst of honestly, where people go, oh, your late teens, early 20s, such a magical time. And I look at it was a very transformative time in my life, but it was honestly brutal. Because I went through those 2 years and really confronted that identity crisis and shifted to a very different place, a much healthier place around my worth and my value. But the second thing it did, all that time sitting in a bed, not being able to do anything, I was confronted. I could no longer suppress or repress because one of my core survival mechanisms with the trauma from my childhood was I was really good at repression. Well, being able to physically rest all that, guess what started coming up? Repressed memories. And all of a sudden I knew, oh, I think I know what the source of my anxiety and depression and overwhelm is, because that's so directly tied to pain. Our personal pain, it affects us biologically, physiologically, chemically. It has such a big thing. And I mean, this is a huge part of my approach and method with caring for my clients is we are 3 systems in one, and they're highly integrated. We are mind, body, and soul. And so while I'm very scientific and analytical, there's also just that understanding of, hey, the brain, body, heart connection is very real. So recognizing all of this unresolved emotional pain I was in was drastically affecting my mental state, was drastically impacting my nervous system. Like my nervous system was fried because I was just constantly in protection mode because I hadn't processed my trauma. So when we don't process trauma, even it can be years, 20 years in your past, and your nervous system is living as if it's happening right now. And mine 100% was.
Wow.
Stress of the car accident, that time, that downtime that I did not choose, that was chosen for me, forced it. It was I call it the pressure cooker. It brought everything up to the surface. And all of a sudden, I'm having to confront that while being diagnosed with Lyme disease, while then encountering something called, this is all in my early 20s, a thyroid storm, which sent me into the brink of cardiac arrest at 22. And it was just another layer of, oh, I can't run from this. Because I was like, oh, I've dealt with my identity, my worth. I'm good. I'd like to be done now. And then the next wave hit. And it led to that deeper healing of beginning to understand my mind, my body, my emotions are all interconnected. I can't heal physically. I can't heal mentally until I heal emotionally. And so then began this deep work of processing trauma and not processing it in my head. We can't think our way out of emotional pain.
No, we can't.
A very different process in that. And this is also the catalyst, the tipping point, because I could not do the photography work that I've been doing. I also was confronted with, what do I do with my life now? So I'm having this identity crisis on my worth and value. It starts to bring up the pressure cooker that brought all of my unprocessed stuff forward. That was like, okay, this has to get dealt with if I want to heal as a human, not just physically, but across the board. If I want to be a whole person. And what do I do with my life? And how do I literally pay my bills? Which leads me to practically such a gift. I was thinking, like, I was fiercely committed to still continuing in work that I believed in. I didn't want to just cash in a paycheck. That was never going to be a fit for me. And with my health issues and needing to rest, I was like, a 9 to 5 is not an option because I was still in and out of hospitalizations. I needed flexibility. I needed to be able to work from home. And this was long before, that was a normal thing, a standard thing. And then a coaching agency reached out to me and they're like, hey, I had a good friend who worked for this coaching agency. This was 15 years ago when coaching was kind of on its first big boom. It wasn't new, but it was on that first big boom into becoming an industry, giant. And they were like, hey, we're in this huge growth phase. We need more coaches. And somebody in the company said, you should talk to Hannah because Hannah's not a coach, but she's a coach. And I will forever be grateful for that person who saw that in me. So they approached me. I was like, I can work from home. I get to set my hours and my client load, and this would be meaningful work. I'm willing to try it. Clearly, I found a fit. I fell in love with it. It was a phenomenal company. They invested a ton in mentoring me, in training and certifications. And it started a 4-year relationship with that agency, which was wonderful from start to finish. And I started working with 30 to 50 clients at a time. So tremendous gift in that I gained a lot of experience in a very short amount of time. You're working with that many people at a time. You start to figure out your flavor, your special sauce as a coach. You start to figure out what kind of people you love serving. And let's be honest, the people you don't like serving.
Right. Well,
And what I was really passionate about doing. So I'm so grateful for those 4 years and the experience gain and how they invested in me. And it hit my kind of third major tipping point. I was 4 years in and I was burning out really hard because I was serving 30 to 50 people.
30 to 50 people. Holy shitballs. I mean, that's a lot. And you're listening to their trauma with your own shit.
Heavy stuff. And some of the focuses weren't that heavy at that time. I really developed my own niche over time. And I had this fork in the road of, I'm so burned out. I kind of want to burn the thing to the ground, light the match and just go. But I went, no. I dug deep and I went, the question is, do I walk away from it or do I find a completely different way of doing this? which led me to go, no, I'm passionate about this. And this is in the core of my DNA. And this is meaningful work. And it's work I believe I was made to do, to help people in this particular way. And so the only option was, I guess I'm making a new way of doing this. So I launched my business 10 years ago and went, okay, because this way I can do what I love in a way that is healthy and sustainable, which is just a core value of mine. Because I went, oh, no. I worked way too hard to heal and to be a healthy human. I will not go back down the road of, just being in survival state and burning out. I was just like, I refuse. And so I launched my business, and then I had the full creative license to do my thing with my people. I really dialed in my methodology, bringing all that experience, all that learning, my personal experience with me, along with certifications and education that I passionately pursued, because I'm a lifelong learner. I'm a nerd. I've always been a nerd.
Yeah. We have that
and long story long, that's what has led me to where I am today.
Long story long. And I'm sure it could have been longer. It's so...
Oh, so I'm like, that's the Cliff Notes, but that was not short.
Yeah, but, it's so funny because I have, a lot of people talking to me about this podcast. And what they love about it is that I give people the space to just talk and, talk about all the things, because to me, it's all part of the journey. It's how we got to where we are. Even in marketing, like if I help somebody with marketing, there's trauma. I was working with a new client who we've aligned. It was like one of the first times we've ever aligned on everything just lined up. And I was just like, holy shit, if all my clients could be like you, I would be like the happiest person in the world.
Can I copy and paste you?
And I love all my clients, right? But this was just like the first time I had a meeting that it was like tick, tick, tick. Yeah. It was amazing. But anyway, in talking about, the website and the story of the website, there was trauma. Mm-hmm. And it's not for me because I'm not you, right? So I'm not going to sit there and go, we should look into it. Even though in the back of my brain, I'm like, she needs to get some stuff out. So I didn't openly say it, but I left the door open. Mm-hmm. And it was pretty much like, I think I said something to the effect of, there's more to the story here. And if you're comfortable, I offer you the space. And if not, then you're fine.
Yeah.
Ooh, she was comfortable. Put it that way. Yeah. And it was great because, now she knew how she had to market and she knew who she had to market to. And she didn't know that before. And it was just like, for me, it kind of opened up another level for me, or another window for me to be able to kind of go through and go, oh, I can help with this piece. So last week when we started talking about like the authenticity piece, which we're going to get into very soon. Yeah. And you were like, that's the trauma response. I was like, oh, this is so good. It was just like so good because so many people don't realize that a lot of their actions are from trauma. And I know me personally, like I was saying, when I was young, I never felt worthy of anything. So I felt that I had to buy my friends. So in school, I would, buy lunch for everybody. We didn't have money. I asked my mother for money. She's like, where'd the money, go? I'm like, well, I bought lunch, stop buying lunch. But, that was the only way that I felt that people would want to be around me.
Right.
And then as I got older, in my 20s, I told you I had like arrested development because of, trauma that happened to me. And I started doing the same thing again as an adult. And finally I was like, no. A, I'm going to go broke. And B, if they don't like me for me, then, and then I started becoming an open book because I felt that in order for me to be comfortable, and to know that people were around me because they wanted to be around me, not because of other, reasons. It was like, here's my story. And if you want to be around, great. And if you don't, there you go. But, this is it.
Yeah.
And so many more people were drawn to than pushed away. And I remember my wife.
Magnetic.
Oh, it's they're drawn, right? And I remember when I told my wife, she was the first person that I ever told everything that ever happened to me, like everything.
Yeah.
And this is when we first started dating. And I was pretty much like, so if you want to run, now is your chance. It's like, if you want, you're out there. It is.
I'm giving you all the information so you can make an educated, informed decision.
So now every time something happens, I'm like, you married me. You knew everything when you married me. So this is on you. But, in all seriousness, I remember telling her everything and her looking at me, not with pity, but with empathy and with like, I'm so sorry that you had to go through that. And
passion.
But look at you now. And I was just like, oh, I'm going to marry her. As soon as it becomes fucking legal, I'm marrying her. Like I knew. But anyway, so I'm still trying to just like absorb everything because that's like, it's so much and it happened so young. But the fact that, and we know there are no pun intended, there are no accidents, right? That happened for a reason. You were supposed to slow your ass down and do all the things. And so the work that you do now, so talk about that a little bit.
Yeah. So I use neuroscience and trauma-informed methods combined to, it's like there's the first phase of work is like, I call it the freedom phase because it's like mentally, emotionally, in your nervous system, there's got to be a release. And when we release, we step into freedom. Like when you think about just like release, being bound by something, being burdened by something, you can only function so functionally when you're carrying a heavy weight, when you're wrapped up, like bound by something, you operate in a state of dysfunction, right? Well, for high achievers, we're going to find a way to power through the dysfunction, but it's still dysfunctional. And there's all of the coping mechanisms. So that first phase of work is like, we're looking at the release process of release, not just a live and let live. You can't tell that to trauma. Trauma's like, no, I need to be addressed. I need to be acknowledged. I need to be taken care of. So it's not about turning people into victims. People are not victims. I am so against victim mentality. I'm like, you're a conqueror, you're a survivor, and you don't have to keep surviving your old pain. So we're going to go through and we're going to find those origins where you learned how to become a survivor because you get to come out of that function. Like you've conquered it. It's behind you. So you actually get to, by processing it, by acknowledging it and processing it again, like not in your head. That's not where we live in our trauma. Our trauma affects how we think, but it's not where it lives.
Right.
Our trauma lives in our
bodies.
Sense. It lives in our somatic being, our body. It lives in our nervous system, and it lives in our emotional memories. And so it's like taking care of that whole piece. And it's like, hey, we're moving through the release process. We're actually going to process and release because that's when we get closure. And we are wired for closure as humans. Like we see it in every aspect of who we are as people. We are actually wired to thrive in closure. I mean, think about like breakups. What does everybody want? I just want closure. Right? We say this about things. We thrive on closure. So it's actually bringing closure, not suppression. Not, oh, these are better, more effective ways to push it down and not let it get in your way, which I'm like, by the way, when you push it down, suppress it, package it, and contain it, it actually impacts you more because it's sitting in you're packing it down to the very core of who you are as a human. Yeah. And that's where it does begin to distort our identity. Like we become something that we're not really, that we aren't really. Like a workaholic or a perfectionist. You see this tie to that. Yeah. So we work through that. And then the next phase is what I call the foundation phase. And I love this because it is not, oh, you're this brand new person. It's like, no, you're just restored to the person you have always been. The healthy, incredible human before the distortion of pain, before the dysfunction that was created by trauma, the dysfunction of becoming a survivor instead of a human. You're just surviving. You get to get reestablished in your core identity and in healthy function mentally, emotionally, and in your nervous system. You're getting reestablished and healthy and reoriented. Do you know how wildly disorienting it is for somebody who's been programmed for survival their whole life to stop surviving? Panic inducing.
Oh, I can imagine.
And people panic. Yeah. They're like, I don't know how to function like this. It feels unfamiliar, which the brain says is unsafe. So we're creating the safety for that change to occur. Like, no, it is actually really okay. And it's disorienting, but I'm going to guide you through that disorientation where you go, oh my goodness, this is what it feels like to not operate in survival. And that's where this is where people get mindful, because they're high achievers, visionaries, where they're like, it's like setting lighter fluid on a fire. I'm like, you're going to be blown away by how much more effective you are. Now, that's not our primary outcome of, oh, let's get you doing more, but it's a natural, healthy outcome. They're like, I'm doing less and accomplishing more, and I'm feeling good doing it. I feel like I feel good mentally. I feel good emotionally. I feel good in my body. And they see it, the ripple effect into their relational health, for so many women, their hormonal health, their financial health, the thriving in whatever aspect of service they're in, whether they're, a business owner or a business leader. They're like, I'm leading better. I have yeah, because you're now a healthy human. Then we take it into the future phase. The last phase is like, now we're looking, it's like the freedom phase is taking care of the past. And the foundation phase is the present. Like, who are you today? Like getting reacquainted and reoriented into your healthy identity and healthy operating systems. And then the future phase is like, and now we get to look up and out and go, and where do we go from here? And how do we do it as this person? And we're taking this for the long haul. Like it's for life. Yeah. So it's like setting yourself up for success, for sustainably continuing forward in this healthy person that you are. And I'm passionate about each phase, and I am unwavering on we take care of all three systems, because you've got to take care of all three through each phase for it to last. You take care of one or two of those three core systems, and you get momentary or small breakthrough. I see a lot of people, they get that like stop start of 2 steps forward, 1 steps back. I'm like, nope. It's a commitment, but we're taking care of all three systems. And they're like, I literally feel like I got my life back. I feel like a new human. I'm like, you're a renewed, restored human. Absolutely. Yeah. So I think you can see like, how could I not love what I do, to watch people do that and to watch these they're incredible to begin with, not broken, just hurting in a state of dysfunction, to watch them come into the fullness of who they are. It is like the deepest privilege and joy that I have.
I love that so much. I did my work probably about 5 years ago, and I didn't realize, for me it was like you, people pleasing and not buying stuff, but just like, doing whatever it takes to make that person happy at whatever. Yeah. It didn't matter what the cost it came, to me. It was just that person was happy, right, and that client was happy, or this, whatever was happy. And I remember I spoke to this guy for a while, and he made me look at because it starts at childhood, right? Like whatever trauma is there starts at childhood. And it was like, what is the first memory that you have that made you go, oh, and and I remembered it. And he was like, and how did that child deal with it? And I was like, well, she ran away. Mm-hmm. And he was like, bingo. Because that's what I would do. I would run away. As soon as something got hard, I wouldn't physically run away. I would push that person away. I would push that client away. I would get the fuck out of that because it wasn't safe. Right. And when I saw that, it was just like oh my God, like my entire life made sense. Every decision I ever made, anything I ever did. And it was like, oh my God. And what a breakthrough that was, because it changed the trajectory of my life, my business, everything. And it was, I remember just going, And I said to him, where the hell were you 20 years ago? And he goes, you weren't ready. It wasn't time, because if it was time, you would have found out. And because I really do believe that everything is timing. And what that allowed me to do was kind of go, oh, I'm doing the podcast. I'm restarting my business, and I'm going to start my business this way. And these are the people that I'm going to deal with. I'm never going to fucking deal with these people ever, never again, ever. Right. And like you said, it's like, who you want to.
All of a sudden you had no problem implementing boundaries.
No, it was like, and so I'll tell you a funny boundary story that I never even thought about, but we were in Germany last year. I went into the Apple store because I left my mouse. Of course, I left my mouse at home, and I'm on a Mac. I can't, do I'm not good at the mouse pad thing. So we were in Frankfurt, and I had to go to Cologne. So I go to Cologne because that's the only Apple store. So I drive to Cologne. I get to the store, and there's these two mice, and one is black. It's like an Apple mouse. Feel free to be a sponsor. Anyway, so it's the Apple mouse. I'm kidding, kind of.
Don't kid.
And one was black and one was white. And I really wanted the black one. Was like $139, but the white one was $89. So I walk over to the sales guy and I said, "Excuse me," and he's like, "Yes." And he's got a really thick, German accent, obviously. And I said, "What's the difference in?" He came directly like this is like this. And I went like this. I like put my arm out, and he looked at me and he went, "American." And I was like, "Yeah, this is my space."
A little bit of space, please.
He was like right in my face. Anyway, it was the color. And I was like, "Oh, screw that. I'm just going to buy the white one." But the fact that he was like this close, and normally I would have stood there scared. I would have just been like, okay, how much? Right. But it was like, I don't want your breath on me. I don't know what germs you have. Just stay away. And I told my wife, and she was like laughing at me because I was like, remember the whole boundary thing? I was like literally an arm's length away. And wherever we went in Germany, it was pretty much like you had to do that, because as soon as they start talking to you, and it's nothing.
It's just part of their culture.
It's their culture. It's their culture. And they are right there. And it's like, I appreciate that, but no. And so
respectfully, I need some space.
Yes. But that was like such a wake up moment for me, because I was like, oh, I could like totally do that. Like literally hold my arm out and really make a boundary. But you're right. Boundaries with people that, we work with, and just being able to be our authentic selves, which leads me to what we were talking about last week. And which was amazing. I'm going to ask you one question first, just because people expect this. So what advice do you have for somebody who's right now thinking about becoming an entrepreneur?
Ooh, so many things come to mind. I have two pieces of advice. Can I have two? Great.
We can make this a two-parter too, but go ahead.
Yes. Okay. So I'll keep them brief. I'll keep them both brief.
No, you're good. You're fine.
One is, I think, one of the most important and compelling things for both the startup phase and then for sticking with it, because, entrepreneurship, it's, I don't want to say words like brutal, but like it's fierce.
It's not for the weak of heart.
It is not for the weak of heart.
Right.
There's a reason this book blew up, and there's a reason, and it starts with why. Simon Sinek. You've got to know your why.
Yep.
Because if you don't know your why, and that to me, speaking to this theme of authenticity, it's got to come from like the gut of your gut of your gut, the core of your being of why does this matter to me? Why does this matter to the world? And I don't care if you're service-based, product-based. If you don't have the deepest from the core of who you are, something that matters to you because of something that matters to you in the world, entrepreneurship will chew you up and spit you out.
Yep.
Because you're going to have to make hard, bold, courageous decisions in everything, in your marketing. Like, you're going to have to make bold decisions to cut through the noise so that people know you exist and you have something that they need, right? It's going to matter when you're making financial decisions. It's going to matter when you're making growth decisions. It's going to matter if you're going to be a solopreneur or build a team. Like, it will literally touch every aspect of what you do. So it's like, know your why and make sure it's coming from the gut core of who you are as a person, because that will be your staying power. That will be one of your North Star guiding principles that helps you cut through the noise and make the hard decisions and stay the course.
Yep.
And be okay in the process. Like, stay in alignment. I mean, you talked about that client that you were so aligned with. You've got to have alignment, and you're going to be aligned when you stay radically dedicated to your why. Of like, hey, how we get there, we can be really flexible, but the why, we are uncompromising. Like, we are holding steady to this. And the other thing I would say is go in with eyes wide open to the pressure cooker that is entrepreneurship. It will be one of the most refining things I think you can do in life. Like, it just, man, it will bring your weaknesses, your insecurities raging to the surface. There's no one to pass them off to. You're it. I think entrepreneurship is just if you're willing to take the heat, a massively beneficial pressure cooker environment where it's just like, yeah, it will force growth. You'll either run from it or lean into it, but it will force growth and refinement in you and a person that not many other things in life will do.
And I say, hi. And I say, and, I always say, if you really want to know who you are or what you're made of, become an entrepreneur, because that's it
I
doesn't
tell you
get
what,
more real than that.
I'm blessed to be married to a wonderful partner. I got tremendously blessed, and I found a great man, and I have 2 beautiful children who I adore. And between my marriage, being a mom, and entrepreneurship, I'm like, dude, this trifecta. Woo! I thought I knew where my weak spots were before those 3 dynamics in my life. No. I mean, I knew a level, but it's like I had a massive upgrade on my pressure cooker.
Yeah, I hear you. It's, when you have all of that combined, there's just, it's your business, your life. I know you have kids. I have, 2 dogs that are our kids. And, Piper is always up to freaking something whenever I start recording something. It's not Skylar. Skylar can walk in here, no problem, not touch anything, lay down, say hello, whatever. Piper will eat everything that's in here. So, she can't come in. And she has like a radar whenever I'm Paul, whenever I'm doing a podcast, that she's going to scratch on the door. Or she's going to magically see something outside that is really not out there, so, and then marriage, right? I mean, marriage it's work.
Well, if you're doing it well, I don't think there's any perfect way to do it. No. But to something that you shared earlier, you chose complete honesty and vulnerability with your wife.
Yep.
That invites and allows people into the deepest parts of who you are. And it's going to confront stuff in you. Like, I was like, oh, I'm a super patient person. And then I had kids. My husband didn't push the impatience button. It was my kids. And I was like, oh, I have some stress mechanisms there, and it brought it to the surface. My husband has brought different things because I've chosen vulnerability with him. No regrets. He doesn't use that against me, but man, when you have 2 people who are willing to choose vulnerability, like, stuff's going to come up. For sure.
Yeah.
And man, woo.
Just like keep piling it. We'll
Yeah.
make like a triple scoop sundae.
I'm like, yes, challenge accepted. May I have another?
Bring it. Keep it coming. I remember, I think it was like a couple of weeks ago, I was like, okay, when I said keep it coming, you could stop now. We're good.
I'm good now.
I'm good.
Oh man, I've definitely
it's
had
funny,
that.
because of I told you I was homeless when I was 19, and
Yeah.
every night I look outside of our patio door into the forest that, we're blessed to have, in our backyard. And I thank the universe and God and whatever you believe in every night.
Yeah.
That, that I have this safety, that I have this home that I never in a million years would have thought that I would have had. And it's humbling, and it's also, it gives you this like amazing, feeling of gratitude. Right. So I try to just have that every day. But, so one of the things that we talked about, and we really should make this a two-part because we are never going to be able to get into all of this, was the authenticity piece.
Yeah.
And one of my biggest things, and I'm going to be, starting to do public speaking on this, which is another thing I'm grateful for, which is crazy. Like if you would have told me I'd be doing public speaking, I'd be like, no. But then if you told me I'd be doing a podcast, I'd be like, no. So here we are. But
you go.
But we were talking about authenticity, and what was so amazing was when I was, we said, okay, are you being your authentic self? And I said that I was in front of a bunch of the dames, and they were like, oh yeah, we are. And you should have been there because you could have just cracked that shit wide open. Because when we talked about what we talked about last week, it was like, okay, you think you're being your authentic self. However, take it away, Hannah.
However, and we talked about this last week, it's like, yes, there can be, I think there are always pieces of authenticity, that you're bringing forward. And just taking it back to what I was sharing about like my childhood, there were very real parts of me. Like I am a natural high achiever. It's in me. That's authentic to who I am. And then there was my survival mechanism of being an ultra high achiever that was not authentic, that just push, go, kill myself, take care of everybody else at any cost to myself. And I literally paid the price in so many different ways. And so there's that challenge of going, is that really who you are? Is that truly authentic in your brand, in your business, and how you're showing up in the world? And I don't think there's any intention to deceive, manipulate, to present yourself as somebody that you're not. It's not conscious. But is it true, exclusively authentic? Or, and this is what I challenge all the time, or is that pieces of your identity that are truly actually survival responses, trauma responses that you have operated in for so long that you think it's authenticity, but it's in fact a distortion of who you really are? And that's the stuff that creates friction and exhaustion. You're going, let's just take it to the marketing conversation. Why is my message not getting through? Why aren't people hearing me? Why aren't people seeing me? Like, why do I keep attracting the wrong client? Why do I keep, is it the market?
I love that.
Or are you not authentic? Is it not actually authentically you? Because like I said before, authenticity is magnetic. People know, we all have. It gets distorted over time sometimes, but we are all innately given a like radar for what is true and what is not. Mm-hmm. Like we can feel a counterfeit. Something's off. And we intuitively know that. And it's such a gift because it helps us choose some things over others. You're like, no, I want the real steak, not the tofu burger. This isn't a statement on carnivore,
Sorry, who the hell would eat a tofu burger? I'm going to come out and say that, but go ahead.
Right.
I'm a carnivore.
Let's just say it where we have Beyond Burger or like all these meat substitutes. Yeah. Again, this is not a statement about meat. It's just going they'll say like, oh, we've made it just like it. You'll see all the marketing and messaging about like the meat alternatives. And if you put those two plates in front of me, I'm going to intuitively know which one is actual meat and which one is meat alternative. We know. Now, if you want the meat alternative, go for it. I'm just saying, like when you're being advertised in marketing, you're being marketed, oh, it's the same thing. Every time people are like, that's real meat and that's a meat substitute. Right. No.
Yeah, right.
That's just an analogy. This is across the board. Like, okay, did you just become a meat substitute because you had to? Or are you really the real meat? And when I confront people with it is very uncomfortable. It is very like the defenses go up. But if you're courageous enough to allow yourself to question it, because I mean, that's what it is, the courage to go, wait a second, let me sit with that question for a minute instead of just rejecting it to protect myself. And I go, ooh, this is uncomfortable, but let me sit with that question for a minute. Is that actual authenticity, or is this the marketing approach that I've learned is safe?
Well, and from what we talked about was which I thought was so strong, and yes, the safe piece, but when we're being our authentic selves, then we're attracting the right people to us, right?
Right there. And that's what I'm saying. Authenticity is magnetic.
Yes.
Because there are, and this is what we use this in like business speak all the time, right? You want to find your people.
Yeah.
You want to find your people. It's like, you are not for everybody. You're not.
Nope.
And that's not because there's anything wrong with you. It's just like I meet people and I'm like, I love everybody. I have a genuine love and respect for every human because we all deserve that. You're a human, equal value, equal worth. And there are people I'm like, love you, love for you. You're not for me. Right. Like, quite frankly, I never want to invite you down to sit I'm never going to invite you to a cup of coffee. You're just not my person.
Right.
That's it. So when you have the courage to be truly authentic, to not have all of your survival, safety, protective mechanisms up that give you the illusion of safety, when you have the courage to go, my authentic self actually is safe.
Right.
So I'm going to put it out in the world. The people who have been waiting for you and looking for you are like, there you are.
Yes. Where have you been? Where have you been?
Where have you been?
I had something weird happen last week, and I can't. It's a long story, and I don't even know how to shorten it. So I'm going to try and really shorten it. But I was talking to the right client, and not even knowing they were going to be a client, but I was talking to the right person, and then I accidentally got connected with the wrong person, but I didn't know at the time. I know this is so vague because I want to be really careful.
Oh, no, it's fine, but I know exactly what you're talking about. I'm like, right? Oh, I'm tracking. Yeah. So
basically, there was a company that was supposed to be doing a service for us, and I was given the company. I was given the company name, and then I ended up speaking to the woman from the right company, but the name was not correct. So I had called and left a message at the incorrect names, thing. And long story short, the person who owned the incorrect thing called up the correct person and started like blasting them. And then the correct person was like, well, I'm glad that you had the time to call somebody and say that we were, using their name. And I was like, no, that's not what happened. And so there was this whole debacle. Anyway, so I spoke to the correct people, and they saw who I was. Because I said, this is what happened. You don't know me from a hole in the wall. I would never do anything to hurt anybody, number one. Number two, it was a comedy of errors. It was just one thing after the other. And I am, so sorry. And he laughed. He was just like, I said, and if you knew me, like I told my wife, and she was like, only you, because this shit only happens to me. So I apologize, and he laughed, and now he's going to become a client. But the point is, right, was that, I am my authentic self. And one of the things that we said was, I'm going to be in your face and tell you exactly how it is. And that's how you know I'm authentic. And that's how you know that it's not, it's like, Whoa, back off,
Yeah,
chicken.
there's one example. Like people who posture is like, oh, I'm going to tell you like it is. I'm the person. If I might be the only person in the room, but I'll be the person who tells you like it is, that truth. And they're aggressive about it. And it's like, hey, truth doesn't have to be aggressive.
Nope.
Truth doesn't have to be shoved down your throat and in your face. You don't have to be the jerk in the room to be heard.
Yeah.
And so when that posturing is there, I'm like, ooh, so are you really the truth teller? And I mean, there are a couple different pathways that typically feed that kind of survival mechanism. Or is that a survival mechanism? You learn to be that way.
Right.
You learn to survive by being like that.
Because you have to at that point.
Like, and speaking in terms of like a brand, a business owner, you see their entire brand messaging, their tone, their voice completely shift. And they're like, oh, I'm still so truthful, but man, I present it in such a different way. And all of a sudden people can hear me.
Yes. I mean, that's it. I have one client, actually, well, all of my clients, but I have this one client, Jeremy, and he'll bring an idea to me and I'll say, so let's look at this and let's look at it from a few different angles. And then we look at it from the few different angles. I said, so now you already know what I'm going to say, but I want to hear what you're going to say. He said, and that's why I love working with you, because you don't make me feel like a jerk.
Yeah.
You help me figure the things out myself. You tell it like it is, but you also, help me, figure the stuff out on my own. And I'm like, that's because why make somebody feel like, I told you, like I had somebody that, was like, whoa, why would you freaking market like that? That sucks. And I was like, oh, why would you ever say that to somebody? Like that is not how you get ahead. For me, I look at what they're doing. I look at everything that they're doing.
Yeah.
And it's like, okay, I've just looked at everything you're doing and you're doing this great. Keep doing this. You're doing a great job there, right? Here, you're doing a pretty good job. So I would say, keep up with that. You're good here. Here, probably a little bit of help. There's a little bit, right? But,
there's more that can be done here.
Exactly. And people appreciate that so much because you're looking at their strengths.
Yeah.
And we need that. So,
and they're coming to you for your strengths, not to be told how weak they are. I mean, that's the whole reason they hire you. They know they don't have that strength.
Or they wouldn't need you.
Exactly. That's what I'm saying. Like they're coming to you because you have that strength and because they do not. Right. So why in the world would we tear somebody down about a strength that they don't have when they're like, I know that's why I hired you, because I know this is not a strength. I wouldn't need you if I was great at it. Like I know the things that I hire people for and like, I suck at it. That's not being, a bully to myself. I'm not like putting myself down. It's a reality. No. Like I'm horrible at that. Will you help me?
Right. And there's nothing wrong with that. I mean, we can't be great at everything, right? We are skilled in the things that we are skilled in, and we're not skilled in the things we're not skilled in. And there's nothing wrong with it.
And that's just another piece of authenticity.
Yes.
Like it's hard for people when they're like, oh, it's kind of funny. Again, this might be a little offensive. They're like, I'm kind of great at everything. I'm like, ooh.
Yeah. Yes.
Because
it's so true.
And that's where the pride is a protective mechanism, the false confidence, the lack of humility to admit where they're not great. Because you're like, oh, it's not safe for you to be imperfect. Got it. It's just seeing through and going like, oh, I need you to know it's really okay for you to suck at things. So what are you actually good at? And that's where they're able to get really honest with themselves. Like, this is what I'm great at. This is what I'm not great at. You're like, great, then shed it. Let that stuff go and just focus on what you're great at. Like, that's just I'm simplifying it radically, but it's another example.
It's true. I was talking to somebody a couple of weeks ago and they were like, and I literally was like, why did you call me then? Because, they were talking about a website and I started discussing the different flavors of WordPress that we use, and we use Squarespace and whatever. And he's like, well, yeah, I know how to do that. And I'm like, okay. And then we started talking about, and then, no, this was a Zoom, so I couldn't even hide my face, right? It's like my poker face kind of sucks. And then we started talking about SEO and he's like, well, yeah, I get all that. And I said, so why are we on this call?
What do you need?
Like, yeah, I said, so, and he said, well, I need help with this. And I said, but it doesn't sound like you do, because it sounds like you already know how to do it. And so why do you need me? And he goes, no. That's not what I'm saying. And I said, yeah, it is. I said, let's do this. I said, you think about what you really need, like really take time and think about it, and then call me back. Mm-hmm. Because I'm not going to sit in a meeting with somebody who every time I say something, they're like, oh yeah, I know how to do that. Or, oh yeah, because now I'm wasting my time and I'm getting pissed off.
Right. Well, it's just like, I'm so glad you know how to do those things. Doesn't sound like you need me. Best of luck.
Yeah. So call me. Haven't heard anything back. So, and I'm wondering, I feel like calling a couple of agencies in town to be like, hey, did you hear from this guy? But I won't, but I really want to know, because it was like, I know, but there's that part of me that's like,
I know. And I'd be like, Iris.
I know. So I'm like, no, but because like after next week, everybody in Lafayette, if they didn't know about me, I told you about the award and everything that, I won, and I'm very grateful about that. And I'll be receiving it next week. But this will be airing way after that. And it's going to be interesting, because already I've had a couple of people be like, you're in the club now. What club is that? Yeah. What does this mean? But at the same time, I kind of feel like, again, I go back to that 19-year, like I will always go back to that 19-year-old, not the 7-year-old, but the 19-year-old who was looking ahead and not seeing a future.
Yeah.
And going like, and I remember I was working with somebody and they said, go back and have a conversation with the 19-year-old and the 7-year-old. So I did with the 7-year-old. I put her in my lap and I held her and I was like, I can't stop what's going to happen, but you're not alone. Mm-hmm. And the 19-year-old, I said, you do not know everything. I promise you. You think you do. You do not. Yeah. But you're going to make it. Yeah. And not only are you going to make it, you're going to blow it the hell out of the water. So
it's going to be really good.
Just hang in there. And so I'm really grateful that I was able to have the tools to be able to do that. And I think that that's what helps me be my authentic self, is that I know all the parts, right? It's like,
it's essential. It's essential for authenticity. Yeah.
Okay. Well, of course we're over an hour, which we knew we would go. How do people find you?
You can find me on my website. I have a contact form, so you can find ways to reach out to me on my website at hannahAbbott.com. And you can also find me on LinkedIn at, my profile is Hannah Abbott, and you can find me on Instagram at Hannah Abbott Coaching. And I love direct conversations, direct messages. I'm all for those direct connections, because I'll be really honest, I don't post every day on social media, but I'm there in the DMs and I love those personal connections.
Awesome. Everything will be in the show notes also. So, So thank you so much for taking time out of your day and sharing you with me and my audience.
Honor and a pleasure. Thank you.
It's such a pleasure speaking to you all the time. Hang on, I'll be right back. I'm going to say goodbye. Everybody, thank you for hanging in an hour plus again. I hope that you found Hannah as I did, which is why I invited her on. Reach out to her, hit her in her DMs. What does Lizzo say? Hit me in the DMs. Hit her in the DMs, have a conversation with her. You will not be sorry. There is so much wisdom and heart, and I just can't say enough good things. But like, share, subscribe. I was supposed to do that in the beginning, and Kofi is going to be like, you forgot. But, there's a button down there. So, hit the thumbs up and like it and share it, please, and subscribe and leave a review. And also leave a nugget that you've gotten from listening to this. Leave maybe like a pearl of wisdom or something that really touched you, and share that with everybody else. But I appreciate you all. Thank you for the honor and privilege of being able to do this. I love this. This is like my passion project. So thank you all. And until next time, go out and find what lights. Oh, wait a minute. We have to go back because I did not ask you the last question that I ask everybody.
Oh, okay.
What lights your fire?
Oh my gosh. That's so hard.
How the hell we got so far? Yes. What lights
your fire? I
already
shared that when I was talking about like being so passionate about what I do. What lights my fire? Okay. What lights my fire, if I was to put it in one word, is freedom. I am passionate about walking in freedom myself. I'm passionate about seeing other people and ushering and supporting people and walking to their own personal freedom. That honestly, it infiltrates and affects every part of who I am and everything that I do, whether it's personal or professional. I'm very passionate about freedom.
Wow. Thank you.
Yeah.
Wow. Okay, Michelle C., I remembered. Everybody, okay, I'm just going to stop it short again real fast and just say thank you again and go out and find what lights your fire. See ya.